Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you may be. All right, so Star Citizen Live, the most recent one, part two, clocking in at 30 minutes points. There we go.
Transit was problematic, wasn't designed for server meshing. And so transport is a rebuild, a complete rebuild of the transit system, but using more server meshing native approaches for how different pieces are going to manage elements that are streamed out and streamed in. We're also moving away from some previous misconceptions that were put into the transit system. Uh, for example, one of them was responsible for trains going into space. We don't want trains to go into space. So,
You might not.
yeah, well, I mean, unless we do a space elevator. That'd be dope.
Astro train.
Yeah, Astro train would be great. So the state of transport, right? So at
space
the
elevator.
end of last year.
Sorry, I'm going to pause. What's included in transport? So what?
Oh, so
what are we talking about?
So
Elevators.
transit and transport manage elevators, in-ship elevators, trains, anything that has to move when you press a button and you call it. So
Okay.
it's a network of carriage, peripheral, and gateway.
Okay.
Right. So you take an elevator to go to your hangar. That's transit.
You take a tram.
You take a tram. That's
Anything that's automated. Anything that
Correct.
moves you
Exactly.
not under your control.
Right. And he's the one moving the carriages, right? So he needs to deal with carriages being streamed out, like prediction for that stuff. So transport is a rebuild of the original transit, which has been, as we talked about, problematic. So the state on transport is at this point, we are, it's functional. So the team at the end of last year actually completed the first transport link, which was we tested this internally with our QA teams extensively at this point. All of the new Babbage HABs links. So we took one link in the universe, that one, and we tested the crap out of it. Right now, that's a static link. So it's going this. When I say static, it means the 2 points that the elevator goes to exist.
Okay.
They always exist. So we know that works. Then the state at the moment is we also support hangars. So these are dynamic gateways, because if you're online and you're at the location, your hangar is spawned there. That's a dynamic gateway. If you leave, that gateway disappears. So the system needs to deal with dynamic gateways. The previous system
Did not.
kinda did, and the kinda bit was the piece that wasn't great.
Okay.
And so we've got internally at the moment new Babbage, we've got hangars and HABs. So the state of transport now is the team is working at converting all of Area 18. So we're talking HABs, hangars, transit trains, all of Area 18 to the transport system. So we're going to go to tech preview with that. That's our plan. And the reason why we need to go to tech preview is because we need players. We've tested this internally.
Player info.
We can't muster as much players as we want, so we're going to try to see if you guys want to come and help us out test the new Babbage transit for real on a tech preview to validate all the assumptions that are in the system.
So we're going to launch a tech preview and ask people to just come and ride the elevators,
Correct.
come and ride the trams
And their hangars.
and their hangars,
Yes.
and hope.
And their
nobody
hangars?
dies.
No trains in space. No doors opening to nothingness. That'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be a good.
No
one.
passing through the floors in the carriages.
The single most exciting tech preview we'll ever do. But incredibly important,
Hey,
because it's a tech preview that doesn't just affect Area 18. It's one that can literally affect quality of life in every single landing zone, on board every single spaceship.
That has an
the
elevator.
ships that have elevators
Correct.
and stuff within, space stations. It's going to be this little thing for Area 18, but it ripples out to everything.
And so after a tech preview, if everything is validated, there's one thing too we want to try to avoid is the train prediction taking like you in 32 seconds to come in, where the train says train arrives in 1,060,000, which obviously we hope that's
I just
fixed.
thought it was a metaphor for the project. Am I allowed to say that?
At this point, you are. So after tech preview, we're gonna scale this out to every landing zone, and we're gonna see which patch this will load in. But at that point, we hope to bring transport in and completely deprecate the transit system from the game and nuke it from orbit. Cool. Yeah.
And that's
Okay.
next week.
We don't give dates. Best effort, but it's looking good. Like this tech preview is going to be where we're going to evaluate really like where we're at with scale, because the issues of transit typically come up with scale most of the time. Right?
Fair enough. I told you we get back to freight elevators.
Yeah.
So, what can you tell me about freight elevators and what still needs to happen?
Sure. So the freight elevators are way more complicated than we can imagine because they get affected by other systems like hangars, like planetary locations. There's also multiple flavors of them, top loading, side loading, and they all operate very differently. So this year, we've had issues at the beginning of the year clearly with the freight elevators, like losing items, obstruction, blocking them from functioning.
You said the beginning of the year, but that really came to a head in July.
Yeah. Where we had even an event that would rely on them, which was
and during the race for Stanton, terrible.
I know.
Well, we knew there was a collection of issues, but we also all of our data said they were only
Localized.
The localized list. It wasn't until we went to scale
That's right.
that we realized, oh, this is actually even worse than we thought.
Right. It's also coupled to a couple of things, and for that event specifically, which was, we concentrated missions in key locations. That's one thing that has been in our discussions all year, was how we distribute missions, right? How we, if we launch a new mission tomorrow morning and we send everybody to the same spot, that
There are
is
gonna be
problematic.
problems.
Not just because it's not fun, because it's a traffic jam, but also it causes other issues. And so
Yeah.
we learned a lot from that on the design side, I think, overall. But
Which is
so freight
good.
elevators, though, so we're pretty happy with some of the core mechanics, but there's still very egregious issues that we're tracking. So there's roughly 73 total issues that we know about. 51 of
Starting to
those
get
have been
kinda
resolved.
itchy, just
So
sitting
I've
here.
asked one of our teams in our Nathaniel Fisher, resident expert in freight elevators, to track that. So the rest of these issues some of them are really problematic. One of them we actually discussed, you and I, just before the show, was how if you're turning in Wicklow items, you need to
You
put
have
them
to be
one
able
by
to put
one.
things in a box. You have to be able to put things in a box.
Correct. And so
You have to be able to
Yeah.
put things in a box and have it suck up
Yes.
that box.
yes, I agree, 100%. And so that
Okay, so I just had to pause here for a second. I haven't really done much of Wicklow, because I kind of figured out this was the case. Plus, I mean, obviously, a lot of the resources you need. I haven't done the grinding for that and everything or whatever. But but that is something that I had thought about a lot because, I mean, I generally only do the very basic hungry, which are like a food item and a drink item. And like I said, I mean, may try to do some of the smaller armor or weapon paint ones. But to think about those bigger ones, I'm like, how would you do that? Or for the things that ask for like so many of the metals or script or whatever, and the thought of just dropping 50 to 100 of those is ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, definitely need to have it like so you can put it in a box and then transfer it to I don't know how you want to inventory or whatever. But yeah, that's one of the reasons I have not done much of the Wicklow stuff because I can't even conceive of that how annoying that is.
that's going to be one of the first ones I think we need to look at. The other one is a bit more problematic because we don't have a proper repro for, but sometimes there are lost items that fail if there's like a back-end slowdown when things get stowed. So we have a couple reports for this. Not many, but the ones that we have are critical. And so, this is a kind of a rule we've set on the CGP team. So Jens and I are pushing this to everybody. It's like the golden rule for everything related to freight elevators or anything that touches inventory is a player should never lose an item interacting with these systems, right? We need trust in them 100%. And so that's why we're tracing on those issues. So there's still a lot more work required on freight elevators for different edge cases. A new one that we started seeing in 4.6, which seems affected by another change, but is sometimes like putting stuff on the elevator, not on the grid, will cause it to disappear,
Right.
which is kind of a physics cleanup conflict. So I know we're looking into this right now because that's a big one. But and then everything that has to do with stacking. So having a stack in your inventory that you want to unstow onto the freight elevator, that mechanism from a backend perspective
Right.
is actually a creation. I know that sounds weird, but you have a stack of 10, that's one item with a stack of 10. You may bring it, it's a creation of 9. So that bit is not stable right now. We're trying to improve that
Yeah.
that mechanism.
It's hard because there's a lot of the chat right now is debating Wicklow at the moment, and
Why did I say his name?
if I say it
Don't
3 times,
invoke
he
his
shows up
name.
on the screen. But a not insignificant part of the dislike for Wicklow is directly related to that freight elevator. It's just there's no it's. We have a section later on. We asked around. We'll get to it. But we'll give you a preview. But we started talking like what is the single greatest quality of life thing that we can do. And we asked. I went around and I asked a couple head honchos here around the company because I was curious. I did an interview before. Like what to you is the single biggest quality of life thing we can do? The single biggest. And on more than one occasion, shout out to Jens. I'm going to spoil it here. Not losing items.
Yeah.
Just not losing items. Just that seemingly simple,
Yes.
benign,
Yeah.
innocent little thing. Like if everything else is important, everything else is super important, everything else is super necessary. It absolutely is. But God is my witness. If we can just make it so people don't lose their items, like so.
I agree.
Shout out to the heroes of the freight elevator hero squad. I thought it was Strike Squad, but you've rebranded it during this call as Hero Squad, and I like it.
Right.
So we'll do it. And everybody, the people in item recovery, the people in the new inventory, people who are working on the new inventory system right now. It's everybody working to fix that because that's just the single most demoralizing thing in the world to me. Speaking of item recovery,
Yeah.
we launched V0 or V1 or whatever the heck we called it, T0. I'm hearing that there's a T1 on the horizon.
Correct.
Talk to me about it.
Well, so the obviously Tier 0 was a fairly large change to the game, so that in the case where you die in the verse, instead of having to run a corpse run to recover your items, you would actually respawn with them. This was mainly done to, we're in an alpha game, we needed to do some compromises, so we looked at that. So item imprint, there's multiple names for this at this point. Item imprint, item recovery, Tier 1, entitlements 2.0. Those are all sort of related. So the gist of it is, and this ties into, some other subjects, but is that currently when you play the game, right, and you look at your ASOP terminal, I think I've said that last time, but I'll go through it again. When you look at your ASOP terminal, the list that you see there is the list of entitlements that you own, which ship that you own, you have a right to, right? Then that's cross-linked with the actual ship. Do you have it? This entitlement, let's say it's a Connie, what is it in the game, right? And where is it? And that's how the ASOP terminal shows you the list, right? So that's why you're able to have a row when there's no ship and it says retrieve or deliver, right? That creates the ship. Then deliver brings you the ship on the platform. Those entitlements currently, they don't live across patches. We recreate them. The first time you log in, there's a big process that reconciles your account, grabs your web purchases, grabs your LTP records, and recreates those entitlements. Obviously, long-term persistence has always been it's a difficult problem to solve. It sounds simple, but it is not, I assure you. But in order to facilitate all this and also other item recovery needs, we've decided to basically persist those entitlements across patch. So these things will never get wiped anymore. And so losing a ship is not going to be a thing. That's not going to be technically possible. We never really delete entitlements. And so you have insurance on those records, so you can claim insurance. The only way to lose a ship will be if you no longer have insurance on it. You still have the deed for it, but you can't claim it. So item recovery is a rework of the entitlement system. It touches on how you claim insurance on ships. It allows snapshotting of ships, but also FPS items, so that these live with an insurance loadout that we can keep and recover, and then will give us the ability to recover or claim your even FPS items. So think of it as an insurance system for FPS items. Right? So this whole mechanic ties into LTP as well. We're also hoping through the system to solve some of the issues that exist with, you know, taking components off of a ship, then claiming the ship, losing the components, and or in some cases being able to duplicate some default components. This whole loop is insurance has always been a problem design-wise for how this functions. So item imprint v1 allows you to imprint items, save that state, and then recover it on death or when you claim insurance.
All right, so I have a couple questions here based on
Sure.
what I heard. You keep mentioning insurance. Are you saying that insurance will be
Josie, for a
in
second.
alongside V1 or just yeah, exactly.
Correct. I say insurance because that's the same kind of loop in terms of what the services are doing
Yeah.
to do this, but basically it's a snapshot we recover from.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
So when item recovery V1 comes out, it'll still be much like it is today as far as insurance. Everybody will just have everybody has LTI on everything at the moment
Yes.
right now until that very specific
Moment.
gameplay system is implemented. So this is not that.
No.
You're using lowercase I insurance.
Lowercase
not-
I, yes.
Sorry, I just needed to, I'm like, I
Underscore I.
didn't
Clarify.
think ship insurance was coming in this one.
Yeah.
So just to clarify that before folks go off. You're saying that because it's a change to the entitlement system and everything will just get snapshot and moved over. When you say people will no longer lose ships, you're talking about that whenever a patch comes out, people come in, they're talking about the ships that they've earned in game, the ships they've either bought with AUEC or stolen or whatnot. Those should persist.
If you have an entitlement for something, we no longer wipe that between patches at all. We keep it completely.
Okay.
So that should give us a lot more. In fact, it is exactly the way you would expect it to function right now, except the way the systems were built in the past didn't account for that. And so there was cases where you could lose something that you own because it was left unstowed in a shard or, something like that. And so
Okay, so if I'm hearing right, basically they're talking about how for a long time, there was the issue and fear that, if you bought something, in online, like armors or weapon or like something you had gotten from a certain, I guess, event two or whatever, and then people would have stuff, but of course it would just sit in their inventory because if they lose it, then it's like gone until the next patch, and I guess the system reconciles itself. And then of course with the things they've been doing over the last thing, they quote tier 0 or whatever. So now it's again if you die, whatever you have on you respawns with you as far as outerwear. Now, I mean, anything that's in the armor or backpack or whatever, that's generally gone. But at least you still, have your armor and weapons on you, and hence on the bodies, they can't be stolen. So I guess now they're saying they're trying to reconcile that, where it's not this like tier 0, no very little consequence to when you die. But as far as if it's again those like weapons or armor that you actually purchased, then again those aren't going anywhere, and I guess they would just respawn after certain periods of time. I believe that's what he's saying.
now with the entitlement system, we keep that cross patch.
Yeah.
So
entitlements.
the first question I have in response to that is, how will people get rid of things? Because quite frankly, I might go joyriding one day, or I might buy a thing for AUEC and fly it, and then decide I don't want it, I don't like it, and now it's just sitting there staring at me in the ASOP.
Another good question.
These things don't go away between patches now. Every time I want to try a ship, or I just move away for a ship, or John Crew nerfs the hell out of the ship and I don't want to fly it anymore.
God damn John Crew.
I might want to get rid of it. Will there be is there going to be a mechanism for getting rid of these things?
Well, not with item imprint, right? As part of this, no. But there are, I don't want to go too much into details into this, but
Okay.
I can give an example of like, you have a ship filled with cargo that you stow into your location inventory in New Babbage, and you claim that ship, right? In the current way the system works, that cargo's lost, right? That ship will get deleted and you're done, right? You get a new
Oh,
one,
okay, if it's something
but
stolen.
it's the same
Yeah.
entitlement, right? With the new system, we have the ability to also show you ships that you own that had an entitlement on it. And so what that means is you could claim that ship. You'll get a new, let's say it's a Caterpillar filled with cargo. And you're like, I need to claim it for some reason. You can claim the ship. The other ship will be bricked, right? That's how the design is functioning. So it's no longer usable, but you can still retrieve it. You can still retrieve the bricked ship and get it. And then if you destroy the ship or tow it out, then it'll go away from your entitlement. But there's going to be more system, of course, to remove
Okay.
that from your ASOP
Okay.
terminal longer term, but not in this phase, but longer term, yes.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about I'm
But at
thinking
least you
about
get to keep it then.
the long-term players, the people who have been here for a while, who have acquired a rather massive a fleet already, and
I'm a victim of this.
you know, and you start buying ships, and it's I'm guilty of it. There's just sometimes I don't want this anymore. I don't want to look at a I don't know, a Rock DS anymore.
Why?
Just want it out of my ASOP. I bought it mistakenly from Astro Armada. I just had a momentary weakness, and I don't want that Rock DS staring at me in my
yeah, you
ASOP
should
for
be
the
able
end
to
of
just
time.
sell it back.
Because you've done a wonderful
Or,
thing with item recovery, you know,
But now you keep it,
and
but
now
now
they're
you're stuck
persistent.
with it.
Yeah, some things
Are you saying
aren't
you
meant
don't
to
want
be-
your ships anymore?
I'm just saying some things aren't meant to be persistent. So I just want to take this opportunity to just
That's a
encourage
good conversation.
There should be some way to remove to get
I'm
rid of
very
it.
curious about why you singled out the Rock DS onto this.
Okay, if anyone's played the game, I'm sure they know very well why he brought up the Rock DS. I mean, I've never used a Rock DS. I pulled it out for like, I believe I've rented it and pulled it out like once. But the Rock DS is like, wait, what's the point of this? Because again, you look at a Rock, which is single pillar thing, and then the DS, which I believe, again, from the looks of it, the outer arm has the mining laser, but the inner doesn't have a mining laser. So it's kind of like, how is it really a double seat? What's the point of this? you know, I mean, I would think the point of something that's supposed to be a double seater is that you could both mine and make it quicker, quicker to get stuff, or that the chair could maybe move to mine one thing while the main miner is doing another. But to my knowledge, that's not the case. And so, yeah, I've heard people make many cracks on the Rock DS. Anyways, so that being said, yeah, because I've wondered this a number of times before. As again, I don't have a ton of stuff in my hangar, but I do have some things that it's kind of like, okay, I don't really use this anymore. And, obviously, something that you've purchased from, like, the Pledge store, from, the Star Citizen Robert Space Industry store, obviously, you don't want to just sell that. I mean, if you want a different ship, I mean, you can, of course, melt that down, as they call it, for credit, or upgrade it to something else. So that's fine. That makes sense. But for stuff that you buy in game, why, just like any other item, you know armor pieces, weapons that you buy or that you find as loot, why should you not be able to sell those as well? Now, I mean, I can see maybe if they're saying there's something in the system that you can't make that differentiation yet between an entitlement because it's something from the Play Store and entitlement something you bought in the game. But at the same time, I would think that should be fairly easy. you know, um, I don't know, and maybe they'll address that as well. But yeah, I mean, that's what it sounds like Jared is saying, because yeah, there are things that are in my hangar that I'm like, I don't use these. Like, over time they kind of give you things sometimes. Of course, as a subscriber, you have access to ships of the month and all that. But there are other things like I have now um, two two Pisces, where at one point I think it was actually three Pisces, two Pisces in my inventory, a Valkyrie, which again I don't remember buying that. Maybe I did. Um, but like a number of different ships, and like I said, I think occasionally CIG just nicely randomly lets people have things or borrow them or whatever. So that's whatever. But yeah, I mean, so rather than having them in there, and again, as far as if I need a quick respawning ship, they work out fine. But still, it's like, why not let me, if I pay for it in game and I barely use it anymore, why can't I sell it for money? Obviously, it'll be worth less, just like anything in the game or any real world market. Once you get it new, after that the value drops a little bit. But I mean, why can't you do that? Or like I know, even though I haven't done it, I know for if you go to the ore sales kiosk, there are some ships, and again, I don't know if this is only things that I think it's only things the only things that came up are money, the ships you actually have that and as far as I know, because I haven't done it, it's not getting rid of the ship itself, but as far as the quantum fuel and certain things, maybe it is the actual things you can sell that. But yeah, I mean, why not be able to just melt down a ship in game for some of that currency? Again, obviously less than you paid, or that you can sell it you know, for raw materials for them to tear down, like to a junkyard, or I mean to sell it back to one of the dealerships. Yeah, well, that's what I was saying to begin with. Or like I said, I mean, where you could maybe break it down for materials. So I don't know, but yeah, that is something along with Jared I have wondered for a while.
How much time you got? Jared hates the Rock DS confirmed. Oh, you haven't been watching for a while. So you're getting that confirmed now. Jared, you're not supposed to be going on shows and telling people you hate certain ships. You're supposed to be championing everything. I'm like,
No, if something sucks,
Yeah.
it sucks. Sorry.
I hate the Rock DS. It's just.
It's comfy though. It's good to get
Hold on,
used.
let's just do everything the first Rock does, but require two people.
Makes no sense.
Look, I've never lied to you. I never will.
Sure.
It's the only. It's
That's
the only
good,
promise I've ever
Jared.
made people. You've been mentioning long-term persistence, so let's just wrap up this the
arc.
storyline of losing stuff, keeping stuff. The last time we had this conversation, you talked about utilizing this entitlement system. Is that what we were just talking about, or is there more stuff?
There's more. So there's a lot of work ongoing on this, on the long-term persistent side. So just for those who don't know what long-term persistent is, or LTP, there's a mechanism we put in place to allow you to keep things between patches, right? So the
Sorry, just checking to see if
every patch we
anything
basically
interesting has
destroy.
popped up yet.
Like when you come
on
into 4
YouTube
to
as far
7,
as new
when it
trailers
comes out,
and whatnot.
that's a brand new database, right? The whole thing is fresh, and then we recreate things. Now, why do we recreate things? It's because these things are still changing. So the Hornet you had in 4.5 is probably different than the Hornet you have in 4.6. Item port locations have changed. Materials have
Yes.
changed, serialized variables and all the data that goes with it has changed.
The gold standard Aurora that we just launched is
Great
technically an entirely different ship. The
Completely.
whole entity is different.
Exactly.
And what under the hood to the
Exactly.
backer, it looks like okay, you just added
Same
some
thing.
you added some fins and blah blah blah. But under the hood, it's an entirely new set of
right.
entities.
Okay.
And so, in order to allow us to keep stuff, we've built this system on the side that kind of keeps records of what you own. So it says you own a Hornet, right? Um, that system has always been kind of a not I don't want to say a crutch because it did function for a long time, but we've outgrown it quite a bit. There are also many cases where we would remove records of things that you own because they're in play in a shard. That's been proven to be a bit of a bad decision overall, and so that's why we've had multiple issues over the years of like players losing ship entitlements in the new patch or having more items than they were supposed to get. Like, some people have shown some screenshots of
Duplicates.
demultiplication of things between patches, and so
I'd
it's been a
say
big
that.
issue, right? So with the item imprint work, we're tying into that. We're reducing the footprint of what LTP manages by a lot because it will no longer store your entitlements. We just keep those as is. So that's one big bit removed from that system. The other complexity on that side is that it needs to manage nested inventories. And
Back to the freight elevator.
that's just completely crazy. So like, I have a handgun stored in the glove box of my Merlin that's attached to my Connie that's parked somehow inside of my, Idris and stowed in my location inventory. Well, I need to give you a record for that gun, right? And so that system needs to reread data and store it, and
Yeah.
it's really complicated.
Which is why people have gotten into the habit before a wipe, or before not wipe, but before a patch.
Yeah.
Oh, Freudian slip, huh? I know you people. But before a patch, people stow things in certain inventories to have their best chance of
Yeah, to kind of set it up, right? So, on long-term persistence, ultimately, we don't want this system, right? Ultimately, we want to get to a point where we don't need it. So, step one is to reduce its footprint. So that's part of item imprint is that. So that's a big deal. But the next steps are start from the very low level, and will require some large company change. We need to be able to migrate your old Hornet to the new one, right? Or at least be able to know it changed enough. I need to give you a new one, right? Or being able to just migrate the shape of the hierarchy, the item port locations, and the serialized variable formats on these things. Now, the thing you got to think about the way the ships are built, right? The entities have components on them which enable them to do something. I'll give an example just for the layman. You have a health component on an entity that says, hey, I got 100 hit points. When that reaches 0, then we destroy the entity, or something else happened, it destroys itself, right? That component is written in code. There's a game programmer that's maintaining this. We actually have a health component. It does way more things than this, but just to keep it simple. So a game programmer is programming this, and he needs to persist the value of health so that when this chip is now either put in an inventory, then brought back into the game, that the values of the health components on the individual parts have persisted and we reload it, right?
Yeah.
This is true for everything in the game, right? We have serialized variables and components across the game. There's, I think your character at the moment has like 800 serialized variables on it or something like that, right? So those are all different components. Are you crouched? Are you standing? Are you, health of all the limbs, stuff like that, right? So the programmers between patches, they just changed that. I removed this one, and I put a new one in, and then because some of those variables, it doesn't matter if it changes.
Yeah.
Some of them matter, right? If you change that, like it's a different shape, it loads a different CGA model, whatever, right? So that's the big problem about how we need to forward migrate is we need to do this at the very low level. So currently, our network team and our online teams are working at this mechanism to be able to differentiate the important from the important SVs, the serialized variables, on components. So that's all across all components in the game. There's over 1,500, 2,000 components.
Wow.
Individual code components in the game. So, for example, I don't need to know if you're crouched when I stow you in your inventory, right? I don't need to know that, right? But I need to know that when we're running and you're crouched, right? So we differentiate the two, and then we have a mechanism to migrate the data format from one to the other. When we get that functionality in and reliable, what that means is that we will just keep the database. And that is huge, because now that means there's no longer a process between patches that transfers stuff or moves it around or recomputes things. It's the same database. We're just moving its version forward on demand. Now we've looked at multiple different options for that. Some of them were like, just migrate people from one to the other, but then we'd have to keep 5 databases behind. That's just impossible. And so right now we're working at that option, and that's the longer term vision that we have for that. So first, reduce the footprint of the LTP system so it just manages some things, not all, and then work on the real fundamental issue, which is we need forward migration on all this data.
How many times in your life has a errant, random, unexpected serialized variable been the cause of
Oh my
distress
God.
in your life?
I mean, it's crazy. This is the single most important thing, because, like, in case you guys don't know, every time we do full patch is easy because we patch server, client, hybrid, everything goes in one at once. But when we perform hotfixes, and God knows we've done a lot of hotfixing this year, right? That's part of our process now. But there's like specific steps where we have our live QA team need to do compatibility checks, and any change to any serialized variable, added, removed, change the format, change the data, whatever, incompatible client. And so getting our processes in place to catch those before they get introduced, right, is really taxing, because there's always oh yeah, also fix this bug, and that make the whole hotfix incompatible, and we can't launch it. So we have to backtrack, change our approach, whatever. And so that's the kind of thing we're dealing with. This will also solve that if we can make it.
And before somebody says you should have just made a simpler game, Benoit. Have you considered making a simpler game?
Yeah.
No.
Cool.
All right, I want to move into our quality of life section here.
Yeah.
We
right.
talked about it.
Okay. So, and I'm going to go ahead and stop that here. And we'll save that for part 3. Do-do-do. So, yeah. I guess don't really need to recap since I, paused and gave my thoughts on a couple of those things. But yeah, they're just certain issues again that have still been plaguing us for a long time, as far as the cargo elevators stuff disappearing. I don't know, just various things, and of course, like I said, now I'm sure a lot of people's hangars are getting kind of cluttered, so being able to sell certain things would probably be a very nice mechanic. So, but yeah, found it rather interesting, and we will come back and look at the third part here. I'm not sure if I'll do it in a little bit today or a couple days from now, since I work the next couple days. But yeah, that is my reactions and thoughts on that approximately 30 minutes of the Star Citizen Live. As always, feel free to share, subscribe. Hope you give me a like if you like my content. Those of you who have subscribed, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Hit the notification button down there so you know when I drop something new. If you feel so inclined, leave a comment. Let me know what you think of, for you fellow Star Citizen players, what they've said, my thoughts and suggestions, whatever. And as always, thanks for watching. Peace.